Hi. I just spent 2 days looking at Barbie movie screen caps. So, Barbie movies have been a part of my identity. I mean, I was lucky enough to have younger siblings growing up, so I could easily watch Barbie movies without being judged. I may or may not have seen quite significant amount of Barbie movies in my lifetime. So apart from the bad meme-like animation and an awful color palette, Barbie movies also gave us some historical style stories and outfits. So today we're going to have a look at that and review that stuff. So I looked at a complete list of all the Barbie movies ever made, and I noted down the movies that were actually, that you could say are historically inspired, because a lot of the movies are revolving around the fairy world. Oh, Kitty, you're so cute. And the fairy and mermaid movies, it would be difficult to search for historical inspiration there, but there is, oh, he's so distracting. Stop being so cute. But there is a lot of movies where you have like castles and royal families and princes and stuff like that. And that is where I will try and review the costumes. I prepared like a tier list because I guess it's gonna be easier to rate them that way. The reason I look through all the screen caps is because, not gonna lie, some of these movies I have seen like years ago and I don't necessarily remember all of the outfits, and I wanted this review to be thorough because like I just spot. Because if I don't do it, who's gonna do it? You know, like, here's my tier list. So we're gonna start off with Barbie and the Nutcracker, which is a very significant Barbie movie for several reasons. First of all, it's the first Barbie movie ever made. Second of all, I owned a VHS of that, which obviously means it's very important. But third of all, it's based on the Tchaikovsky ballet. Tchaikovsky was a composer that was active in the 19th century, so they already had sort of like a specific time period that the movie would be set in. How specific? That's another story because it's kind of difficult to pinpoint what they were exactly going for, but I'm aiming like second half of the 19th century. So we start off with this beautiful piece. By the way, sorry if the screen caps are like awful quality, but that's like the best I could get, so enjoy. I mean, it's not much better if it's like 1080p because the original animation is still like high school level. So this is very typical Barbie does history, and this type of dress appears in like most of these movies. It's almost everywhere. It's kind of like Barbie does 18th century, if you know what I mean. Like, you have the sleeves, you have the bodice, but like the shape is obviously off, and I mean, it's 19th century, so it's not necessarily the best choice, but I've noticed in a lot of Barbie movies, secondary characters are actually dressed quite well, especially like working class. So here we have this beautiful Victorian lady. She's dressed really well, and she even has the Victorian bangs. I mean, another character that slays in this movie, and is the reason I will probably give it higher rating than most of the other movies, is the character of the aunt, I think, that visits Clara. I mean, she is like late Victorian queen. You have the puffy sleeves, you have the high collar, even the silhouette is kind of okay. The skirt might be better, but I mean, for Barbie level Victorian, it's still pretty good. I cannot believe I'm doing this right now. I'm just rating a Barbie mouse outfit right now. Anyway, this Mouse King dude is clearly Tudor, 16th century inspired, whereas the Nutcracker is some sort of like 19th century Western European soldier. So then we have Clara's nightgown, which is odd. Like, you have the raised waistline and it's short, so it doesn't really work for 19th century. Basically, she spends the whole movie in this nightgown up until a certain point, and then she also dances in the nightgown with the dude at the very end, so it's a bit off, but I guess it had to be something that works as a dress. We then have the children, which are, I don't really know what they are. Again, peasants. They kind of have those like 19th century Russia Sasha vibes, especially with the headscarf. I mean, I've seen worse. These two guys, I don't remember their names, and I'm too lazy to check. I think that was a Bengal soldier. At least that's what the boy called him when he got the figurines. He was like, oh, it's a Bengal soldier. He's definitely inspired by like the British Indian Army in the 19th century. And then the other dude, I don't know, he looks German to me, but I honestly have no idea. I mean, it's a Barbie movie. I don't think they were going for a specific look. Then we have the Barbie transformation gown. It's something that happens a lot in Barbie movies where she's originally dressed in something else, and then you have the sparkles, and then you have another dress. So this might be slightly inspired by like Victorian ballet dancers, but also I don't think so. I mean, it's a Barbie movie. And then at the very end, the aunt returns and she slays. Like, this is, I'm not lying when I say that it's probably the best historical dress in any Barbie movie. Like, it just looks so good. It's like clearly late 1890s inspired. It just looks so nice. And then the Eric dude. I mean, Victorian menswear in Barbie is like TV level of accuracy. I mean, it could be much worse, honestly. So because of the aunt and because of the maid, I think Barbie and the Nutcracker goes in like B tier. I should probably make it square. Yeah, let's just let it sit there. Barbie, the Princess and the Pauper is a significant work of art because it introduced us to the only Preminger. And not only that, but it also resulted in a wave of beautiful Preminger edits. Somebody come get, which I personally think are like the staple of 21st century culture. It starts off with like two families welcoming their new babies. The outfits are a bit difficult to date, but I'm guessing it's supposed to be like 18th century, early 18th century, judging especially by the guy's outfit. And then the villagers family, it looks a bit 17th century. I don't know, it's a fairy tale, so it's obviously not like super specific. So Erica is working in a workshop and this boss lady is clearly like Belle Epoque inspired. Erica's dress, again, probably 18th century, but it's like Barbie does 18th century, so the silhouette is a bit off. Then we get the generic queen look, which is obviously the high collar and a strict hairstyle and a crown or a tiara. And it happens quite often in Barbie movies. Like the queens or mothers usually have like the high 16th century style collars, and then the rest of the outfit is sort of a mix. So here we have the first introduction to our favorite boy. He is wearing sort of a 17th century suit and an ambiguous hairstyle. Then we have Annalise in like a Barbie does 18th century dress again. Then we have this dude, which to be honest looks quite okay. It's clearly supposed to be like early 18th century. So again, all of the side characters are sort of better than the main character. Look at his shoes. And then all of the servants or seamstresses and stuff are wearing like 18th century style garments. And then the wedding dress, the whole silhouette sort of looks like mid 18th century court gowns. So then we are introduced to another historically inspired character that is actually dressed quite well, and that is Erica's co-worker, I guess. I'm not sure because I don't remember. But she's basically wearing like an 18th century style cap, a fichu, a full-on like a really nice outfit, as we see later in the movie. We have this screenshot where we see that the silhouette is like completely off because it looks like crinoline era ball gowns. Then whatever the hell is happening with this lady, like I'm sorry for her back. And then we have this beautiful shot of Premi in his tight breeches. I mean, it's I guess it's supposed to be like 17th century, 18th century mashup with all of this like rich embroidery, rich color palette, and the powdered hair. And then he also has the stockings and the heeled shoes. The neckwear might be a little bit better, but also, you know, maybe that's his personal choice. Like, knowing his fashion sense, maybe he just came up with that himself. Then we get these dudes. Again, the background character is dressed well more accurately than the actual actual prince that looks like a thumb. I wish his neck was covered because that would give him so much more spice, but for now he just looks like a Ken, like a typical Barbie doll, which I guess was the point. So then we have this dude, which I personally think he slays. Like, he slays that silhouette. He has the right mustache, he has the right hat, the right cuffs, like everything about his outfit is like really, really good. It's clearly like 18th century uniform inspired. And then, I mean, look at that guy. He will look so much better in a uniform like that, but no, he's just, you know what, never mind. But look at Premi in the background, like coming in with his flawless outfit. So then we have the cape, which, I mean, capes existed in 19th century, sure, but maybe the hood would be a little bit better, but you know, it's not tragic. The guy's outfit though, like, it looks like he's wearing jeans with like leather boots, which, I mean, I know it's a Barbie movie, but come on. This Annalise outfit is not the best. Generally speaking, all of the Barbie main character dresses are usually tragic. Again, like, she's even wearing stays, for God's sake. Like, she is the epitome of 18th century fashion. She looks so good. And then we get this as her nightgown. I mean, it looks like a hoodie. It ain't it. Then we get her maid that is wearing this interesting headpiece, which I thought reminded me of like 18th century Dutch costumes. Then we get Annalise trying to like work in it. I don't remember what was going on here, but anyway, this dress is just weird. Oh, and then we get Premi in like the wedding suit. So he got changed and he's wearing this wedding suit. And here he is looking fierce AF on a horse. Here we have some random peasants, and I mean, the outfit itself is not that tragic, but what the hell is she wearing on her head? Who did her dirty like that? What is going on here? Then we get like the wedding outfits, which are not great. Then we get those dudes, which, I mean, I would still take the guard over this because this stuff ain't it. Princess and the Pauper, to me, is probably a bit lower than the Nutcracker, so I guess that's like a C tier. I mean, some of the outfits were pretty okay. Again, background characters are sort of like killing it, but then the main characters are ruining it, and also the princes need to sort their shit out because this stuff is just wrong. Next up we have Barbie Rapunzel, which gave us the moaning ferret.
Give him to me.
I had a bit of a problem trying to figure out when it's set because the original story dates from like 17th to 19th century. You know, there are like different versions of the story, and the Grimm brothers wrote it down in like early 19th century, but it doesn't mean that that's set then. So Barbie is wearing, again, sort of Barbie does 18th century, but then we get the puffy sleeves that are a little bit Regency era, but also a bit Renaissance. So I was like, let's just wait and see what happens next. Then she also has this weird gathered bodice, which is like difficult to pinpoint. This badass lady is medieval meets Belle Epoque, so it's a mix. Then this dude looks like Robert Baratheon, and I don't know what's going on. Again, it's sort of like Tudor stuff or like Renaissance. Then she gets transformed a couple of times, like she gets like those like magic dresses. So first up we have this beauty, which is really nice, but I have no idea which era it was supposed to be inspired by. Then we have this beautiful piece, which I'm guessing is like Rococo meets 1830s meets Belle Epoque meets 1850s.
So you just gonna bring me a birthday gift on my birthday to my birthday party on my birthday?
But again, a bit difficult to pinpoint. Then we get this. I mean, it's a humorous scene. I'm not gonna judge them for this. This is sort of like 1950s haute couture, if you ask me. And then we get the final piece, which is this, which is, in my opinion, it would work so well at a 1980s prom. The sleeves and sparkle, even the neckline, the volume is just, it will work really nice, I think. Then we get these side characters, which are clearly like Renaissance inspired. And then the lady decides to dress up in some weird stuff. So this particular look reminds me of like the Venetian masks and the Piero Longhi paintings of like 1750s, so like mid 18th century. But then she goes on like full on Art Nouveau, and this is actually one of my favorite outfits from that movie. But yeah, not a lot of good stuff in this movie, to be honest, because it looks like they couldn't decide on the inspiration, so they sort of mushed everything up, and they were also like, we need some like classic Barbie stuff. stuff. So they did, and it didn't quite work out, if you ask me. So I'm gonna, in terms of historical accuracy, I'm gonna have to put it in E, if not F, because they could have done much better. I love judging people for something they didn't even attempt to do. Okay, next up we have Barbie Swan Lake. We start off with this sort of weird piece. The structure of the bodice is like either 1950s or Edwardian, but the sleeves and the general composition of it reminds me of this like Cinderella dress that she's wearing in the Disney adaptation, and then it also sort of looks a little bit 18th century, I don't know. She's also wearing an apron, so I'm guessing 18th century might have been an inspiration here. So the original ballet came out in 1870s, but it doesn't necessarily mean it was set in 1870s, and I don't think the creators of the Barbie movie attempted 1870s because honestly, it does not look like they did. We have this side character that is wearing sort of like 17th century kirtle. Then we have this lady, which I mean, she's a fairy or fairy queen or whatever, so she obviously is not attempting to like dress in the accurate fashions, and this gives off like, again, 1980s vibe to me. I mean, it would also work at the very same prom as the previous one. Then we have this lady, which honestly, it kind of is Victorian inspired to me, like even the color palette, the bodice, the high collar. Oh wait, do we get a transformation gown? Yeah, I guess. Well, this dress, maybe it could work in 1890s now that I'm thinking about it. 1890s does 18th century. Like the skirt could work, the bodice could work, the sleeves could kind of work, and we also have like a ribbon choker, so it could all work for 1890s. But then she gets transformed into this, which is a beautiful gown, not gonna lie, and it's obviously supposed to be Swan inspired. It kind of reminds me of the mid-19th century fancy dress costumes. And then like, why is she wearing that to a ball though? I mean, it looks cool, it kind of looks 1950s now, but also you can clearly see that the background characters are wearing something completely different. So then at the very end, Odette slash Barbie is wearing this like sparkly feathery gown, which is again super nice. I just don't think I can pinpoint it to a particular era. So not gonna lie, Swan Lake I guess is like the worst so far, simply because there isn't like a single nice outfit that I could find, and also it's not really basing the costumes on a particular era, unlike some other movies. So I think this one is going to like F tier, I'm sorry. Also, I don't remember it being a cool movie, so I don't think I'm that sorry. Moving on, we have 12 Dancing Princesses. Again, I don't remember this movie. I don't think it was that good. First off, we have the Preminger copy. Like, they literally copied Preminger, and they went like, okay, let's just copy his face and let's just make his eyebrows more happy, and that's another character. And they thought we wouldn't notice that. And he's wearing almost the same kind of outfit. He's like clearly 18th century inspired with the weird snails on top of his head. Then we have the first two sisters introduced. Generally speaking, all of the 12 sisters are wearing the same outfits, just different color palette. And all of the outfits are kind of lame. Like, they're not the best. They might be 19th century inspired, 18th century inspired, who knows. I think the closest they get is like 1860s, I guess, but it's a reach. Yeah, the Barbie dress is basically the same thing. The silhouette is also a bit off, like they could have just stopped at the waist, but instead they were like, oh, let's just move the bodices downwards and let's pretend it's their hips. Then an interesting thing happens. So they're wearing their nightgowns, and nightgowns look actually accurate for like the Regency era. So basically all of these shots are like the Bennett family in Pride and Prejudice.
Lizzie, if I could but see you so happy, if there was such an old man for you. Perhaps Mr. Collins has a cousin.
Then we get this lady, which is like a mixture of Elizabethan fashions and 18th century, I guess. Then she makes the girls dress plain dresses. They're basically the same dresses, just like in a gray color. So again, not much history included. And then the wedding outfit is again the very same dress, just in white, and a very strange veil. And then they have a dance with the prince, who is kind of like Tudor. I don't know. It's a bit of a mess. Honestly, I thought it's a bit better than that, but now I'm thinking it's probably F tier as well, because there isn't much like history involved. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I should move the Swan Lake to E, but yeah, I'll just leave it there. Then we have Barbie Island Princess, and I know what you're thinking. It doesn't look like a movie that was necessarily historically inspired, and she's wearing a towel, I know. But there were still some looks that I thought might be reviewed in terms of historical accuracy, so let's move on to the prince. So I was a bit confused whether it's supposed to be like 18th century inspired or 19th century inspired, because at first I saw this dude and I saw his neck piece and I was like, okay, it's probably 18th century. But then we get this dude, which is like clearly Victorian, late Victorian. Then we get the king and the queen, which are wearing like generic royal Barbie fashions. The royals are always getting special treatment. They're always wearing sort of what I would draw if I was like 10 and someone told me to draw a royal couple. That's what I would draw. So the queen is obviously wearing the high collar because she has to, and the king is wearing whatever the king is wearing. Then we get this girl. I think you might notice that it's basically the very same dress that the 12 princesses were wearing as well, which is, I don't even know, if it wasn't for the like the puffy sleeves, maybe it could be 18th century inspired. Then we get this lady and she actually slays. Like her look is so much more 18th century inspired than the other one. And later on Barbie gets sort of a transformation to look like her, and honestly it looked pretty good, and it was supposed to be like, oh, that looks ridiculous moments, so I'm sorry, but she's the best looking here. So then Barbie stops wearing a towel for once and is dressed in this dress, which is quite weird, honestly. It kind of looks like she's just wearing a cardigan, but I'm guessing it's supposed to be like 18th century. And then whatever this guy is wearing is like 17th century. So here Barbie gets her little transformation, and honestly, I mean, it's an awful wig and the shape is off, but I think she looks quite cool. Like, apart from the fact that the wig is eating her forehead, it's kind of cool. Like, why wouldn't they just let her stay in this ridiculous hairstyle? But no, instead they were just like, no, let's change it. Let's get dressed in this beautiful peacock-like design, which honestly isn't too bad. If it's supposed to be 18th century, this is the most accurate so far. But then they're like, oh, let's spice it up a little, and they add all this and then it stops looking 18th century all of a sudden. Or maybe it looks like 18th century theatrical gowns that would be worn as a theater costume. And then they spice things up with this beautiful peacock-like tail, which, I mean, it's a nice dress. It's just not necessarily something that would be worn back then, but also it sort of reminded me of the mid-Victorian peacock dress that Worth designed, and generally speaking again of the fancy dress costumes of like mid-Victorian era. Then we have the wedding dress, which again is the very same dress as before, just white. And then we get this dude, again a side character that is dressed much better, and also like Captain Norrington anyone. Then the Queen Mother arrives and she actually is wearing a quite nice dress. I mean, it's obviously not super 18th century, but it's a nice color. The shape is weird, but it's just I just like it. And then we get this priest, which I'm sorry, but which is basically Tom Scott. I'm just saying. And then we get the wedding scene. It's another one of those like 1980s wedding dresses. It would work perfectly in 1980s. So Island Princess, it has nice moments, but overall it's quite bad. So I'm gonna put it in D tier. It has some nice historically inspired characters, but overall it's a mess, so it's a D. Okay, moving on, we have the gayest of Barbie movies, which is the Diamond Castle. We start off with those two ladies wearing 18th century inspired garments, especially the stays are actually pretty nice. Obviously the color palette is very Barbie, but you know, the front lacing, the long skirts, I don't know what to tell you. It just looks okay for like 18th century working class. Then we get this dude, again, early 18th century fashions, a bit off, his neck should be covered more. And then we get this lady, which I don't think it's particularly historically inspired, but she just looks so cool. This look reminded me a little bit of the Snow White look that I've done with the puffy sleeves and like the standing collar. Then we get those two ladies. I think there was actually the third one, but she's not in the frame, wearing classically inspired garments of like ancient Greek and Rome. But then this full outfit is so damn cool. I don't think it's a particular era that comes to my mind, but she just looks so badass. I would watch a movie about her, but okay. Then we get this side character, which is funny because I realized she actually strongly reminds me of like 1930s period dramas, where you would get like puffy sleeves of the 1930s and the 1930s makeup and the nails and then the ringlets are something that would appear in like every single 1930s period drama ever. So weirdly enough, this is kind of historically accurate, just not for the era they were probably going for. Then we get different outfits for the girls, and again, it's probably 18th century, but again, it's Barbie that's 18th century, so it's a mess. And overall, it's not fantastic. So I'm guessing it's probably going to a D tier as well. It's very Barbie, you know? And I like this movie actually. Why am I doing this? Like the movies are not even supposed to be historical, but it's just so tempting. Like I just can't help myself to like rip it apart. Okay, so it goes to D tier and then I'm trimming it. We then have Barbie in the Christmas Carol, and I mean, let me tell you, it's the best one. It's honestly the best one when it comes to historical costumes in Barbie movies. They knew what era they were supposed to go for and they went for it, and I love it because even the first dress in the movie, like you can clearly tell it's supposed to be Victorian. It's like, it looks 1870s. We have the off-shoulder look, the short sleeves, we have the ruffles, the silhouette is okay, the decoration is nice, the color and the fabric is nice, she's wearing the right accessories. And the thing I like most about this movie when it comes to portraying history is they actually went for the Victorian hairstyles. Like they literally made an effort and made some research. They just made Barbie wear a Victorian hairstyle in like most of the movie. And granted, it's probably something that a teenager would wear rather than a full grown-up woman, but still, like you'll see later, there's a lot of really nice hairstyles in the movie and I really appreciate it. Like you have the nice ringlets, you have the nice volume, there is a lot going on in the hairstyle, we have the hair pieces, and even the jewelry is nice. I mean, it's just overall, it's a really nicely done piece. Here's one of the actors in the theater group, and I mean, just look at his hairstyle. He's clearly wearing a mid-Victorian hairstyle, and I'm not sure if the rest of his outfit is like super accurate, but it's looking okay. His neck is covered. I mean, compared to some of the princes in the movies, he's really not looking that bad. Then we get this dude, Kitty. Then we get this dude, which again probably could work in a Victorian theater and no one would notice. And then we have those two sisters, which look so good. They just look like 1850s dancers, like the outfits, just the color palette of the costumes, the details, and obviously the hairstyles are something that could definitely appear in like 1850s theater. Maybe the skirts are a bit too short, but then their legs are just abnormally long from what I can see. Then we get Eden's friend, Catherine or something, and she's probably my least favorite when it comes to the outfits because she's always wearing this off-shoulder look even during the day and it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. And her hairstyle is really nice and it's kind of like mid-Victorian, so they're definitely mixing a lot of Victorian decades in here, but you can clearly see that they did the research and they actually looked at some photographs, which I like. The dress is a mess though, and even the silhouette of the dress is kind of like it just looks like a birthday cake. Then we get the first ghost visiting, which is supposed to be Eden's aunt, and she is obviously wearing some Victorian / Edwardian mixed fashions. Like her hairstyle is clearly Edwardian, but then the rest is sort of weird. It's sort of like 1870s meets 1900s, but also she's a ghost, so I don't think we should pay any attention to that. Eden's nightgown is actually really nice. I mean, it kind of looks more like a peignoir than a nightgown, but in general it gives off this 1870s vibe. Like the length of the sleeves, the silhouette, it's just really cool. I think it looks really good. Then we get this ghost. I mean, she's a fairy ghost, whatever. I don't think we should pay attention to what she's wearing, but if I had to pinpoint exactly where they got the inspiration from, again, it looks like Victorian fancy dress costumes or like theater costumes at the time. Then we see the younger version of the main character, which is wearing a really nice Victorian young girl costume, which is looking like 1870s, 1880s. But just look at it. It just looks really nice. Like they even got the colors and the patterns right. It's just correct. They understood the assignment. Then she meets her friend and the pink costume weirdly looks much worse, even though it's probably the same thing, just a different pattern. They even got the bright stockings, dark leather shoes, shoes is just really nice. I think it could benefit from like a small bustle, but it's overall not a bad design. Contrary to the lady on the left that literally looks like a birthday cake. I mean, all of the ladies sort of do. Then we have them change for their like Christmas show. I mean, it's still not bad. Then we get another ghost, which is wearing sort of like 1850s, 1860s dress, probably 1850s, with lots of strange decoration on it, but also she's a ghost. Pay attention to a cool hairstyle that she's sporting. Then we have those two ladies. The lady on the left is just wearing just basically the same thing that the aunt was wearing, so I'm not gonna comment on that. And she's also wearing sort of like a mid-Victorian hairstyle. Then we have a bunch of random poor peasant kids, which honestly, I've seen much worse. They're okay, and they even got like the tiny crinolines that the children at the time might actually be wearing, so it's honestly pretty good. Then we have this ghost, and she slays. She's looking so good. So she basically looks like a Gibson Girl era actress with the hair and the choker, and I mean the whole outfit that I think you'll see later is just on point. Here's I think like future Eden outfit, which is basically the same dress as the green one except a really awful pattern, and I like it way less. And then we have the purple dress of future Katrina, which is just not it. Generally speaking, Catherine's dresses are probably the worst in the movie. But like, look at the Belle Epoque lady. She just looks so good. Like, this dress could easily work for like a 1900s actress, honestly. And then we have the new and changed Eden dress, which is clearly a beautiful basel gown, a Christmas one at that. And honestly, it could easily work in 1880s, like I can easily imagine someone wearing something similar. There is no front opening, so I'm assuming it's laced at the back as it should be. She's also wearing long gloves with that, which is clearly like an evening style outfit, which is why it's then a bit weird that she just goes out in it and wears a short cape with that, but maybe it's like an evening outfit, I don't know. So overall, honestly, this is the best Barbie movie in terms of accuracy, because they just clearly did their research and just understood that it's not just another Barbie movie. Like, the aesthetic of the movie is clearly Victorian inspired, so this one is getting like an S tier. I don't know why there's like a modern Barbie on the cover, even though she was in there for like 2 scenes, but go off. Okay, and then the last one is Barbie and 3 Musketeers, and we start off with a rather awful Musketeer inspired outfit that she's wearing. Like, it's clearly super modern with the tight pants and everything, but there is a nice thing about her wearing a white shirt and a red corset style top, because it reminds me of like 17th century curls. The original 3 Musketeers book was set in the 17th century, so it might be a small tribute to that, I don't know. We also have this Musketeer inspired hat, which is not fantastic, but then we have the mother, I think, that is again wearing something that might work as a chemise and a kirtle and an apron set. She would probably be wearing a cap though. Then we have this dude in a Tudor cap and a doublet. Like, it just looks quite okay. And then we have the stereotypical Musketeer outfits, which are not too bad. I mean, some TV shows have used this look, and I just wish their necks were covered more, but that's okay. Then again, we have the typical Musketeer collar, I guess mid 17th century, with like the flat long collar decorated with lace. Then we have the 3 ladies. So the 3 ladies are wearing outfits that again could be inspired by the shift and a kirtle set, except they're super short. And that's what I don't like about these outfits. Like, I understand they're supposed to be fighting all the time, but it just looks a bit weird, especially with the white stockings and the ballet flats. It's just a bit off to me. And then basically every female character in the movie is wearing the same thing. Like, this bad lady is wearing again a white shift and a stay-like garment on top, but she's also wearing gloves and a strange neck piece, and she's basically looking very 1940s, 1930s to me, so I'm not a huge fan of this particular look. Then we have this poor lady again, a shift and a kirtle combo. And then this dude is looking a bit strange, but you can clearly see where the inspiration came from. Then we have the ball outfits, which are nothing historical ever. Like, they're not even trying to be inspired by 17th century, which is okay. It's a Barbie movie. I'm just saying, like, these fits are not. They would work better in 18th century. And then we have random Anna at the ball. Have you noticed? Like, there's basically a Frozen character in here, even though it probably came out before the actual movie. But anyway, all of the garments that are worn here are clearly just a fantasy. Like, none of the ladies are wearing anything 17th century inspired, because we would see a lot more bare shoulders at a ball like that. Then this dude, I don't know what he's wearing, but it ain't it. In both cases, it's just a little bit off. The color palette is awful. I don't know what it was supposed to be. And then this one is again a bit Tudor inspired, but also it's a fancy dress ball. So maybe they were going for some like historical inspiration for like 100 years prior to that. I don't know. It's not, it ain't it. And then these outfits, I mean, it's like Barbie does sexy Halloween costumes, and then the end outfits are the same fits, but with like weird blue hats, which like, why did you go for blue? So overall, like, it started off not bad, but it ended up as a historical nightmare, so I'm probably going to go E tier here. Yeah, I'm going to go E. Okay, and that's all of the movies I could find that featured sort of historical inspirations when it comes to Barbie movies. So, I guess that's it. Thanks so much. Hope you enjoyed and hope I inspired you to watch some of those classic cultural reset-inducing movies. Thanks for watching and see you. Bye!